Aleph Raudaline is a prodigy. A man said his child must become an alchemist. He continued and said he will teach her to the best of his abilities. Another man replied, no, she was born to become a legendary chef, so he will guide her to her destiny. A woman cut in and said, nonsense. The woman continued and said she'll serve tea to the nobility so that she can establish connections and find a good partner for herself, so they should leave the child to her. Then the three of them begin to argue about it. The age of transmigration has come, and this isn't an introduction to a webtoon or a fictional novel. A news broke out on the TV that there has been a massive increase in deaths and missing person cases around the country. While no links have been established, experts warn that the level of safety awareness. So they ask everyone to stay safe and alert. The age of transmigration is a mysterious phenomenon that has been causing much chaos and panic recently. On the internet, some say that transmigration is the cause of the phenomenon, while one can simply dismiss such as nonsense. There is evidence to support that theory. A single commonality was found in the phone records of every person who died during the period. The group had just received a seemingly innocuous spam message, one of those automated recommendations for a life insurance package that often cluttered their phones. It was a momentary distraction, but they paid it little attention, much like the lady who had just received such a message herself. The rescue team swiftly closed in on the injured lady, their urgency palpable in their coordinated movements. Every step they took was a testament to their concern and commitment to her well-being. With the utmost care and professionalism, they had one primary goal: to ensure her safe and secure transportation to receive medical attention. Amidst the commotion and the bustle of the rescue effort, the team members worked in unison. Their synchronicity was a testament to their training and experience, a well-practiced routine designed to handle situations just like this one. The stretcher, a symbol of hope and assistance, was brought forward, its sturdy frame ready to cradle and protect the lady during her journey to receive the necessary medical care. Their focus was unwavering, their determination resolute as they inched closer to the lady. In this critical moment, they were a reassuring presence, a group of professionals dedicated to ensuring her safety and well-being, a beacon of hope amidst the uncertainty of the situation. However, before they could reach her, the lady's phone emitted a familiar ding. It was a notification she hadn't anticipated, and she glanced at her phone, revealing a message that stated she had been insured. This unexpected turn of events left the rescue team momentarily puzzled. The timing of the notification, coinciding with their efforts to assist the lady, raised eyebrows and created an eerie atmosphere. The spam message and the subsequent insurance notification formed an unusual juxtaposition, casting a shadow of intrigue over the situation. It was a moment where technology seemed to intrude upon the real world in a surreal and unsettling manner. In the blink of an eye, Ayelet's world was transformed. She found herself in a place unlike any she had ever seen, her surroundings teeming with vibrant life and a flurry of activity. The abruptness of this shift left her bewildered and disoriented. With wide eyes, she took in her new environment, her senses flooded with a cacophony of sounds, colors, and bustling people. The scene around her was like a tapestry woven from countless threads of different lives, each person wrapped up in their own pursuits. As she navigated through the crowd, her curiosity piqued by the strangeness of it all, she overheard snippets of conversations. Amidst the hubbub, a particular phrase caught her attention: "Transmigration assessment results are in." It was a cryptic utterance that left her both intrigued and perplexed. The mention of transmigration assessment hinted at a world filled with mysteries and secrets, a world she had suddenly found herself a part of. With a growing sense of wonder and curiosity, Ayelet realized that her journey in this new reality had only just begun, and she was eager to uncover the truths hidden within this enigmatic realm. The lady was surprised, then she said to herself, "Transmigration assessment?" The talking puppy cut in and said, "Yes, that's right. Reader 1 asterisk 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 5617 that it's her turn." The lady was also surprised to see a puppy talking to her, but the puppy said he is an assessor from the Assessment Division of the Transmigration Bureau. The puppy continued and said to the lady that she is dead and where they are is afterlife. The lady was also shocked to hear that she is dead. The puppy said the gods who manage the public infrastructures of the afterlife are very interested in story-based content these days, just like how popular novels are adapted into comics, games, and the movies. gods can see their powers to create new worlds, or as they say, dimensionalize worlds. But since she had been summoned to the afterlife much earlier than his allotted lifespan dictates, so she is likely to qualify for it. After a long conversation with the puppy and also choosing her preferred genre, which is childcare fantasy romance novels, the lady continued that she lost her parents and her brother as a child. Her uncle's family discriminated against her, and she was never able to learn what it felt like to be loved by her family. They even took the insurance mo. After years of hard work, she finally became a civil servant and moved out, but then she suddenly died and now they're going to take her rent deposit. Everything seems like a job interview to the lady. Then she said she wanted to move on from her woeful past life and be transmigrated as the protagonist of a childcare fantasy story, so that will finally understand what familial love is like. And she promised to pay her part well. The puppy replied that he will take that into account. After some moments, the lady got an S class, which there's only a 0.001% chance of that appearing. Then the puppy congratulated her. Intrigued by the possibilities before her, the lady turned her attention to the enigmatic puppy, eager to learn more about her forthcoming role in this extraordinary narrative. With a sense of curiosity and anticipation, she posed a question to the puppy, her voice filled with wonder. Which character am I going to become? The puppy, its eyes twinkling with a knowing gleam, responded with a gentle, reassuring tone. Given your affinity for childcare stories, my dear, I've decided to transmigrate you as a charming and adorable little girl. The revelation was met with a sense of excitement and intrigue as the lady envisioned herself embodying this new character, one that promised to be as endearing as the stories she adored. The puppy continued with a playful hint, and just to make it all the more enchanting, you'll even have pink hair. It was an unexpected twist, adding a touch of whimsy to her character's persona. As the details of her impending transformation unfolded, the lady couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement, eager to embrace this new chapter of her transmigrator's journey as a delightful and unique character in a world of storytelling and adventure. The puppy's response was filled with a hint of intrigue as it pondered the possibilities. It contemplated the circumstances of Ailette's upcoming transmigration and said, "Let's see, you'll be living in the manner of a noble, but there's a twist. You won't be the noble, nor even a privileged guest. Instead, you'll take on the role of a daughter to one of the servants, someone who is often mistreated by the protagonist of this world." Ailette's brow furrowed in response to this revelation. The prospect of becoming part of a world where she would bear the hardships of servitude and suffer the injustices meted out by a cruel noble weighed heavily on her mind. She couldn't help but voice her misgivings, saying, being transmigrated into a random tree might be a better fate than that. Despite her reservations, the die had been cast, and the destiny of her transmigration was set in motion. The lady's existence was about to be rewritten as she embarked on a journey into a world filled with challenges and uncertainties. A system ding about logging in to the transmigrator support system. Then the lady received transmigration insurance full package benefits, which includes mandatory tutorial period, blessing of extreme growth, and one-time cash deal. The mandatory tutorial period initiated the tutorial before the novel's timeline, and the difficulty was been set to F for the duration of the tutorial. The lady action was also restricted. The novel is set in an infinite time loop. Once the tutorial had come to its conclusion, a subtle adjustment in the timeline seamlessly integrated Ailette into the novel's world. Yet, as the intricate process of alignment began to unfold, Ailette found herself engulfed in an unexpected symphony of clamor and commotion. Perplexed by the sudden uproar, she couldn't help but voice her confusion, her words cutting through the din. "Why is it so noisy?" Summoning her courage, she cautiously pried open her eyes, only to be met with an astonishing revelation. She had transcended the realm of the living. The abrupt and surreal transition left her in a state of profound astonishment. It was in this bewildering moment that a small, enigmatic puppy appeared, guiding her into an uncharted and otherworldly dimension. Ailette's senses were overwhelmed by the inexplicable turn of events that had unfolded before her. As she gazed upon this surreal landscape, she found herself muttering softly, almost to reassure herself, it really happened. The weight of her newfound reality bore down upon her, leaving her both mystified and inquisitive about the journey that lay ahead. Which means she really transmigrated. After the synchronization has completed, she now became Ailette Brodeline. Ailette began to fondle her chick, She said to herself that she's as pretty as a doll. Immediately she accepted her reality. Then, after she has been admiring her looks for the past 10 minutes, she said to herself, but what's the point? She became a little girl. But this isn't a novel about childcare. Ailette is the daughter of a servant who works for a noble who bullies the protagonist. So many villains mistreat the protagonist in this novel though. She needs to find out which family this is. Then a manor map flashed to her view with amazement in her eyes. She said, wow, she even get a map of the manor. It feels like a video game. The spoiled son of Count Gillette, though he was born to a family of famed swordsmen, but he wasn't skilled with the sword and had to buy his title as a knight. He thought he was capable of clearing a dungeon on his own, which nearly killed him, but he was eventually saved by the kind-hearted protagonist. The protagonist never asked to be rewarded, but the Count's son insisted on returning the favor, so he dragged him all the way to the county of Gillette. Then Ailette said to herself, what a large manor. She continued and say a meeting between the villainous spoiled son and the gullible protagonist. The outcome is obvious. The young lord ordered the protagonist around as though he was a mercenary, but turned his back on him the moment they reached the county, and right after the protagonist left the Count's castle, a dungeon burst occurred, bringing forth demonic creatures that devastated the entire area. Then the lady thought it was a particularly long and frustrating chapter, especially since the payback was rather mild. The lady said she can easily avoid the impending catastrophe by leaving the county of Gillette, but the disasters like that can occur anywhere, which is the real problem. Dungeons are spreading across the continent like tumors. A dungeon burst could happen anywhere and take countless lives. Then she said she's fated to die once the novel actually begins. If only she knew the story by heart. Ailette said back when she was really into dark romance, she read Infinite Returns to save the world when she was in middle school. Then Ailette shouted, saying that the system administrators should please hear her out. Not all transmigrators remember the novel they're placed in. She continued that if she had a photographic memory, she would have gone to a top university in Korea. Suddenly she saw a menu ultimate library in her front. The lady pondered on, does that mean they can really hear her? The ultimate library holds every book she have ever bought or read in her lifetime, which is only applicable to legally acquired books. The lady said, awesome, that means Infinite Returns to save the world must be somewhere. The lady was so glad she bought all the books. Ailette's quest for an intriguing book led her through the labyrinthine shelves of the Transmigrator's item shop. With a bit of luck, she stumbled upon a title that held fond memories from her past. Grateful to find it among the vast collection, she eagerly cracked open the book and began to read. She had a complete set of these cherished volumes, but now, within this enigmatic realm, they held a new significance. Each page turned was not just a journey into a fictional world, but a means to augment her chances of survival. It was as if the cosmos itself conspired to fulfill her desires, providing her with the tools and knowledge she needed to navigate the intricate narrative she had become a part of. The sense of serendipity that washed over her was palpable. It was as though the universe was listening to her every wish, granting her the very resources and advantages she had silently hoped for. With each word she devoured from the pages of the book, she felt a growing sense of empowerment and a determination to make the most of this extraordinary opportunity. Then she asked the system anything else for her? The system dings and said, Transmigration Insurance full package benefits. Receive one-time change deal. Then the cash begins to clink and falls. Ailette stood before the vast array of items in the Transmigrator's item shop, her hands clutching the substantial sum of approximately 120 million in cash. This fortune, as surreal as it seemed, was her own death benefit, a fund that had materialized from the mysteries of her new existence. As she browsed through the shelves of enchanted artifacts, magical trinkets, and potent elixirs, a peculiar sensation washed over her. It was a mixture of astonishment, irony, and a touch of unease. The knowledge that the very funds she was about to spend had been earmarked for her own demise was an unsettling realization. Yet, Ailette knew that in the intricate tapestry of the Transmigrator's journey, such paradoxes were commonplace. Her path had led her to this unique intersection of fate and fantasy, and she couldn't afford to dwell on the eerie connection between her death benefit and her present choices. Instead, she steeled herself for the challenges ahead, recognizing that every item she selected was an investment in her survival and an opportunity to shape her destiny within the narrative of the novel she now inhabited. This wealth, born from her own past, would now be a resource to forge her future within the world of fiction. The irony of it all wasn't lost on her, and a sense of unease tugged at her conscience. However, as she surveyed the intriguing array of items before her, Ayelet couldn't help but rationalize her choices. She knew that these acquired perks were not just for her amusement, but were a vital lifeline in the complex narrative of the novel she had entered. With these tools and enhancements, she believed she could navigate the challenges that lay ahead and perhaps alter the course of her destiny within the pages of the story. It was a necessary investment in her survival and a testament to her determination to make the most of this unique opportunity. Ayelet then stood up and said, well, it's time to do some shopping since she got 120 million cash to spend. It looks like she can also purchase more cash down the road, which is a relief. Ayelet was careful about how she spent. She saw a skill package, combat, of 10 million cash, and she said to herself, oh my, this is a must-buy. The novel is of the highest difficulty and she will definitely need a skill set. Since aura, magic, and divine power exist in the world, she can choose one among them later. Then she decided to purchase it and scroll. While scrolling, she saw a blessing of rapid growth. A blessing from the gods of the Transmigration Bureau, which allows her to gain twice as many skill X. Then she decided to buy cause once she chooses a skill set, she will need to level it up. To her surprise, she was denied of purchasing it because a more advanced version of the item is currently in effect. Then she saw blessing of extreme growth, not for sale. A blessing from the gods of the Transmigration Bureau, which allows one to gain 5 times as many skill X, only available as part of Transmigration Insurance full package due to balance issues. Ayelet was amazed because the limited item can't even be purchased with money. Then she said to herself that she have a skill package blessing of extreme growth and the extreme growth and the ultimate library. She hoped they will help her survive this class novel. The system dings showing that the sequence of the novel's loop has been set. The sequence of the protagonist's loops is extremely important. Like its title suggests, infinite returns to save the world makes its protagonist painstakingly live his life over and over again. In each of his lives, the protagonist meets more people who deceive and betray him. The people around him see the kind and faithful holy knight as one thing and one thing only. Their delightful prey, each lifetime of loss and betrayal eventually corrupts the heart of the kind-hearted protagonist. But he does get stronger with every loop. Then the lady said to the system, please, let this be one of the later sequences, no more frustrating episodes. Then she receives a notification and the system dings showing that after the tutorial, the novel will be set to the 17th loop. Despite how frustrating the novel is as whole, there are a few lifetimes that progress rather quickly. One such case is the 17th loop. The reason for the rapid progress is simple. The lady bowed her head down and said, why of all the loops? She continued that if the protagonist dies right after the novel starts, who will kill the mysterious murderer in the universe? And even if she do manage to save the protagonist only becomes strong enough around the 70th loop. The lady was so negative if she can make it work, but she said to herself that it has to work. She had got to make it work somehow. Then she said she will just forget about the protagonist. In order to survive, she must become stronger. Then she stood and continued that she can only rely on herself and the powers of the skill package, blessing of extreme growth, and the ultimate library. Immediately her initial guide was complete, she was notified on her new tutorial quest. Tutorial quest is mandatory tutorial period that will prepare her for a wholesome transmigrated life. For S-class transmigrators, the only way to survive this brutally difficult S-class novel is to improve her skills, train her mind, body, and soul to reach the top 100th rank in the novel's universe. Her rank will be displayed upon reaching rank 1000 or above. Time remaining until end of tutorial, 3,392 days, 2 hours, 15 minutes. Reward, unknown, upon failure death. While she was alone, a lady tapped her and said, hey Ayelet. When she looked back, she noticed it was one of the sister of the body she transmigrated into. Then Ayelet replied that she startled her. Then her sister screamed that she found Ayelet. She has been hiding here. Ayelet was afraid and said to herself, why is she shouting all of a sudden? Then one of their maid entered and said, so this is where she was. And then she called Ayelet a lazy parasite. Then the maid said to her to go and help out in the kitchen. Ayelet then asked again, you want her to work in the kitchen? Then the maid dragged her. While dragging Ayelet, a man said to the maid to please wait a moment. Then he said Ayelet is too young to work in the kitchen just yet. The son of the man said in addition that his father is right, so they should please let him do it instead. Ayelet was shocked because the boy has the same hair color as herself. The man continued and said they should reconsider. Kitchen work is too hectic and demanding. What if she gets hurt? Then Ayelet began to think that they must be her family. The maid replied saying, Prince, what are you doing here? It's time for Lord Romdeau's classes, so they should get back to their post. The same goes for Mr. Rodeline. The maid continued that he should stop spoiling his daughter. She's 10, so it's about time she pulled her weight. The prince replied that Nellie is 11, but she's not working either, but the maid detests that he can't compare Ayelet to her daughter Nellie. She continued that Nellie won't have to do hard labor because she'll be trained to serve tea. But with a lot of anger in the maid face, she said she won't stand this anymore. She is in charge of the maids, and if they don't listen, she will tell the countess about it. Then Nellie whispered to Ayelet that why isn't she crying today, or is she scared that she might slap her again? Then Ayelet said to herself that at least she knows who her enemies are. In order to stop the arguments, the maid said enough, and if the prince and Mr. Rodeline keep this up, she will send her to the laundry room. Then Ayelet stepped up and said there is no need for that. Then she said she will help them out in the kitchen. Ayelet began to think that she have an idea of who's on whose side now. It's time to clear up this mess. Ayelet knew nothing about her family, but she don't want to see them suffer. Besides, she's fine. Then Ayelet smiled to her family. Then she receives a notification by the system of choosing descendant of a master chef which she has bought. When she can feel the power in her hands, and she began to use it and start to give it a shot. Ayelet began to chop some vegetables and fruits. Then she said to the maid that the mini carrots and broccoli are all ready, and she have also peeled the garlic and onions and cleaned the king oyster mushrooms. Ayelet continued and said she left the bad ones on the side, just in case, and also she have diced the beef as well. The cream has also been whipped perfectly. The other maid that was in the kitchen with her were surprised Ayelet is doing all that all by herself during the process of working and explaining what she has done. Following the unfortunate incident of Ayelet breaking her arm, she immediately realized the need for a short break. Without hesitation, she turned to one of the kitchen maids and asked for a moment to recuperate. The compassionate maid quickly acknowledged her request, saying, "Of course, please take a seat and rest." However, what transpired next left everyone in awe. In a display of unwavering determination, Ayelet's recovery seemed almost instantaneous. After just 2 short seconds of respite, she returned to her duties with remarkable dedication, bravely taking on the task of cleaning up despite the discomfort of her injury. Her resilience and commitment to her work left an indelible impression on those present. One of the maids said it's amazing enough that she's doing everything so well, but she even seems to be enjoying the hard labor. Ayelet felt that her experience points are increasing. When she was done, Ayelet said to the maids that they should have a taste. As they savored the dish, one of their fellow diners exclaimed, "Mr. Rodeline's daughter is undeniably talented." Another chimed in, "She possesses remarkable culinary skills and an impeccable knowledge of ingredients." Ayelet, humbled by their praises, graciously thanked them. However, an unexpected twist awaited as an eavesdropping maid, known for her irksome demeanor, overheard the compliments. She never anticipated this turn of events. Her outspoken views had usually consigned her to menial chores and reprimands. To her astonishment, the head chef summoned her, inviting her to taste the exquisite cream stew. Stunned, she muttered to the head chef, "Hey, Pisha, that's ridiculous. She can't let a child taste the food." But Pisha replied that she had been here a while, don't she have work to do? Then she told her to get out of her workspace. Immediately Ayelet tasted the cream stew, her power of cash activate. Then she said to Pisha that she thinks it needs a little more flavor, maybe they could add a bit of crushed pepper. In an astonishing turn of events, the head chef, Pisha, extended an unexpected offer to Ayelet Rodeline, asking if she had any interest in learning the art of cooking. The kitchen staff were taken aback, fully aware of the head chef's exacting standards. It was a surprising and rare gesture for her to consider taking on an apprentice. Ayelet responded affirmatively, which left the irksome maid fuming with anger before she stormed away. Turning back to Ayelet, Pisha explained that given her youth, she would begin her culinary education at the relatively early hour of 6 or 7 in the morning, starting from the following day. The following morning, Ayelet woke with an uncontainable sense of excitement bubbling within her. As she entered the bustling kitchen, her heart danced with anticipation. The aroma of spices and freshly baked bread greeted her, and she couldn't help but smile, feeling like a child on the eve of an adventure. In this vibrant culinary haven, Ayelet's insatiable curiosity and thirst for knowledge were on full display. She was determined to absorb every morsel of wisdom and skill that this world had to offer. With the guidance of one of the skilled maids, she embarked on a culinary journey that promised to be both rewarding and enlightening. Under the patient tutelage of the maid, she learned the delicate art of seasoning, the precise timing of flipping pancakes, and the secrets behind creating the perfect sauce. Her hands, once tentative, grew more confident with each dish she prepared. It was a journey that went beyond just cooking. It was a journey of self-discovery and growth. As the sun's golden rays streamed through the kitchen windows, Ayelet felt a profound sense of contentment wash over her. She was not just a spectator in this world. She was an active participant, and the kitchen had become her canvas, each dish a testament to her burgeoning culinary expertise. Ayelet's talent for whisking ingredients together swiftly became evident as she honed her skills with each passing day. Her movements in the kitchen were characterized by grace and precision, whisking away with finesse, creating culinary delights that left those who tasted her creations impressed. The kitchen staff had taken notice of her dedication and growing expertise, and she had earned their respect and camaraderie. They often shared tips and tricks with her, fostering a sense of camaraderie in the bustling kitchen that she had come to cherish. However, one morning, as she was in the midst of a particularly delicate task, the atmosphere in the kitchen underwent an unexpected shift. The door swung open, and in walked Prinz, the master of the house, with an apologetic smile on his face. His arrival was an unexpected surprise, and the staff paused in their duties, momentarily taken aback. Prinz swiftly addressed the room, apologizing for his tardiness, his charm and charisma putting everyone at ease. It was a moment that brought a touch of formality to the otherwise lively kitchen, a reminder of the distinction between the staff and the lord of the manor. Ayelet couldn't help but feel a mixture of surprise and curiosity at this unexpected turn of events as the kitchen's dynamic shifted in response to Prinz's presence. Then the prince noticed Ayelet is her break period. Then the prince engaged in conversation, their interaction marking the beginning of an intriguing connection. During Ayelet break, she read Infinite Returns to Save the World aka IRST, and found the part where the Rodeline family was mentioned. Prinz and Ayelet are the children of Leonard Rodeline, who was an elite alchemist working at the Golden Ivory Tower, commonly called the Alchemist Tower. He was then hired by Count Filet, who slashed his wages because he was a single father with 2 kids. As an alchemist who didn't know much about money or laws, he ended up signing an unfair contract which transferred all his works and possessions to the Count. His children Prinz and Ayelet thus became Count's servants. Ayelet became a maid who did menial chores around the manor. While the Prinz and Ayelet were talking, Ayelet saw a mark on the Prinz's hand. Then she began to think while Prinz was whipped in place of the Count's spoiled son. Then Ayelet said, "Your hand." Prinz replied that it is because Lord Rombio got all the questions ruin his test, but he personally wasn't beaten very much today, cause he did Lord Rombio homework for him. Then Ayelet said to him that he should put some ointment on it and ask Dad for some. Prinz replied that Dad won't let him go for the classes if he finds out. He'd rather be whipped if it means he can attend. Ayelet was surprised Dad doesn't know about it. But the prince continued and said, "Ali, what's the matter with her?" He continued and said she promised not to tell Dad in exchange for his pudding. Then she replied that, "Fine, then they should go to the laboratory and look for some ointment later. She will help apply it on his hand, Prinz." When Prinz heard this, he was so emotional. Then he said, "Well, she haven't called him by his name since she was 4 years old." Prinz continued that she barely thought of him as his brother because he's dull and slow on the uptake. She didn't like being around him or even talking to him at all. Then he continued and said working in the kitchen must have changed her. Ayelet said, "Yeah, all that hard work made her to grow out of it." She continued that she will talk to him more often from now on so he should forget older. Then she said to herself that since she is Ayelet now, she will treat her kind brother the way she want to. Prinz was happy with what Ayelet said. Then he said he feels like he have a real sister now. He continued that he's not saying she is a fake sister before, but he's just happy, that's all. Then a maid come inside the kitchen and said, "Kids, wrap it up now, it's time for snacks." Okay, they both replied in chorus. Ayelet said to Prince that they should hurry and wash the dishes so they can eat. Suddenly Nellie showed up and asked that were they tasked with doing the dishes, Ayelet? When the prince called her name, Nellie replied that how pitiful. Imagine what it will do to their hands. She said all she do is prepare tea and snacks for the countess. Pour them. Ayelet replied, yeah, good luck with that. Then he received a notification that from the system that she have reached her cooking skills is now level 2. Ayelet was very happy that her skills leveled up really quickly. Then Nellie said, well, she guessed her siblings are best suited for useless tasks. Then Nellie said, did Ayelet hear what she said? Suddenly Nellie whacked Ayelet with a stone because she didn't reply her. Then Nellie also called Ayelet dim-witted blockheads. Not knowing someone was looking at them, then Madame Isla said to Nellie that she must behave properly at all times because she can't serve the countess with such an attitude. Then she asked Nellie if she have finished weighing the tea leaves like she asked, but when Nellie was about to reply, Ayelet cut in and said that would it be all right if she steeped the tea for their break. The madam replied that if she wants to do it, yes, she would like to serve tea for everyone who's worked hard with her today, so she may. Then Ayelet began to make tea for everyone, and when she was done, she served all the maid in the kitchen the tea. The maids were happy, and one of them said that their baby prepared everything for them. Then they thanked her. When they all tasted the tea tastes wonderful and also is the same as the tea they always drink. Madame Isla's curiosity led her to request a taste of Pisha's tea, and, obliging, Pisha allowed her to sample it. After a thoughtful sip, Pisha then recommended that Madame Isla should also experience Ayelet's tea. However, when Madame Isla finally tasted Ayelet's tea, her disappointment was palpable, and she couldn't help but express her frustration, exclaiming, "What foolishness is this?" Madame Isla shouted and said, "What foolishness is this?" Pisha said that Isla shouldn't be so harsh. She's only a child. She continued and said she was enjoying that tea, or has she gone mad? Madame Isla said she is as sane as can be. Pisha, she continued that her hands are destined to make and serve tea, and yet she's wasting her talents working in the kitchen. If this isn't foolishness, then she don't know what is. Ayelet was surprised, then she said, "So she's touched? Is that it?" Nellie thought she'd be scolded. "And why is Madame Isla complimenting that Ayelet?" Pisha said, "What's this nonsense? Madame Isla has got Nellie as her disciple." But Isla replied that Nellie doesn't have talent. Madame Isla extended an offer to Ayelet, expressing her intention to instruct her in the art of serving tea, instructing her to seek her out at the same hour starting from the following day. However, Pisha interjected, firmly opposing the idea, insisting that Ayelet's destiny lay in the kitchen, as she possessed remarkable culinary talents that Pisha was determined to nurture. Madame Isla, faced with this divergence of opinions, proposed a compromise. Ayelet should have the opportunity to learn from both of them. Then Ayelet replied that she will try her best then. Then Nellie became more jealous and angry of Ayelet. Ayelet decided to go and meet Prince. When Ayelet saw Prince, she asked him that did he find the ointment? Prince replied that he couldn't find any in Dad's bag. What should he do? Ayelet was surprised because there was nothing at all. Ayelet thought he'd have plenty to spare since he's such a diligent alchemist. Prince said that the head maid always steals them to moisturize her skin or something. Ayelet asked him that what does the butler know about this? Prince replied that they are all in on it. The butler, the head maid, and even the doctor possess their unique roles within the household. In a universe where healers were a rare breed, individuals blessed with divine healing powers were indeed a scarce occurrence. When such a gift did manifest, it often fell under the tight control of religious orders. These organizations maintained a firm grip on those who possessed the ability to heal. Nonetheless, when the availability of healers was limited, the next best solution came in the form of healing potions, skillfully crafted by talented alchemists. These elixirs served as a valuable alternative, ensuring that ailments and injuries could still be addressed even in the absence of a gifted healer's touch. Deep in thought, Ayelet found herself reflecting on the profound implications of Leonard Rodeline's reputation as a distinguished alchemist, a figure of remarkable distinction within the hallowed halls of the prestigious Golden Ivory Tower. It was no small feat to attain such status in the world of alchemy, where knowledge and skill were revered above all else. She couldn't help but wonder about the potential solutions that might arise from such a connection. Beside her, Prince too was lost in contemplation. He recognized the magnitude of the challenge at hand, the elusive nature of their quest to find a solution. With a knowing nod, he turned to Ayelet and shared his perspective, acknowledging the difficulty they faced. It seems, he began, that we'll have to exercise patience and rely on serendipity to lead us to the answers we seek. When the right opportunity arises, we'll seize it. Their determination to overcome the hurdles in their path was unwavering, and they embarked on their journey with hope in their hearts. Then Ayelet began to look for a way to make healing ointment for her sweet brother. With the help of the system, Ayelet was able to purchase a great alchemist's skills, which she was able to create a healing ointment for Prince. Late in the night, when their father returned, both Prince and Ayelet had already slept. Then she had a note just in case her father returned. When their father saw the ointment and the note, he picked up the note and read it. Leonard was amazed with what Ayelet did. Then he said that maybe his girl is a prodigy. When Leonard used one of the ointment Ayelet prepared, he was so pleased and proud of his daughter. Then he said to himself that starting from tomorrow, he's going to begin teaching her alchemy. In a dark and morning night, a girl who just lost her parents was taken home to her aunt's home by her aunt and her husband. Upon arriving at their house, Ayelet's emotional floodgates burst open, and she couldn't help but sob and sniffle. Her tears, a testament to the burden she carried, flowed freely in the solitude of her room. The weight of her circumstances had become unbearable, and the sanctuary of her room was the only place where she could release her pent-up emotions. However, her solace was short-lived as her cousin stormed into her room, wearing an expression of irritation and anger. With a sharp tone, she berated Ayelet, demanding that she stifle her sobs because they were interfering with her own need for rest. It was as if Ayelet's presence in the house was not already a reminder of the favor she had to seek from her relatives, adding an additional layer of guilt to her already heavy heart. In the aftermath of the heated exchange, Ayelet's cousin stormed out of the room in a huff, slamming the door behind her. Left alone in the quiet aftermath, Ayelet couldn't help but feel the weight of the situation pressing down on her. Later that evening, her aunt, who had overheard the argument, entered her room. With a mixture of gentleness and firmness, she spoke to Ayelet about their family's current financial struggles. She explained that, given their precarious circumstances, it was becoming increasingly challenging to provide support. Ayelet listened attentively to her aunt's words, recognizing the sincerity and concern in her voice. The girl nodded in understanding, her response a mix of respect and gratitude for her aunt's candor. With a soft-spoken "okay," she conveyed her willingness to shoulder her own burdens and not be an additional strain on their family during these trying times. It was a moment that marked her determination to face the challenges ahead with resilience and independence. A little while later, as her aunt departed, the girl found herself in the living room. Suddenly, she noticed her aunt, along with her husband and their young daughter, returning home, their hands burdened with bags. Curiosity piqued, she asked them if they were planning to have a meal. To her surprise, her aunt's husband replied, "We've already eaten." With an air of unspoken tension, they retreated to their room, the door slamming shut, leaving the girl in a puzzling silence. Then she said to herself that they said they are struggling to make ends meet, but why do they always dine out? The girl went to her aunt's room, which her husband was also inside. Then she said, "She know everything." She continued that her father and brother's death benefits the settlement from the traffic accident and even the proceeds from selling their house. "You took them all." Her aunt's husband replied with anger on his face, and also her aunt looking at her in anger. Then he said, "You little ingrate." Her sole fixation on financial matters appears to overshadow her appreciation for the warm embrace of her relatives who kindly welcomed her into their home. Her family, notably her aunt, couldn't help but convey their profound disappointment in her attitude. Her aunt, in particular, didn't mince words and forthrightly expressed her sentiments, deeming this fixation on money as deeply troubling and disheartening. In a moment of stern candor, her aunt went on to emphasize the gravity of her actions, labeling them as shameful. It was a stark reminder that their generosity shouldn't be taken for granted. With a heavy tone of concern, her aunt even raised the possibility that if her behavior persists along these lines, the only viable course might be for her to depart from their household. An ultimatum intended to serve as a wake-up call for her to reconsider her priorities and actions. The lady went away from the house and stayed outside. Then she began to think about her dad, mom and brother, saying to them that they should not leave her. Meanwhile, it was a nightmare which Aleph is having. In the nightmare, she began to groan and moan. Then she said, "Hush now. Dad's right here." Then she blinked her eye and saw her dad. Then she asked him that, "Dad, is that really you?" "Of course it's me," Leonard Rodelin replied. He continued and said he will stay here until she fall asleep, but Ayelet said he should not worry. Then she slept off. After a while, Ayelet woke up and saw Prince and Leonard Rodelin, both of them holding each of her hand. Then she noticed it was a dream. Then she said to herself, since she's wide awake from shame, she might as well read the novel. She said to herself that she remembered the Rodelin family was mentioned elsewhere too. Then she began to flip each pages until she saw where it was. Then she read that when the Count's spoiled son vanished, a servant approached and greeted him shyly. "Hello, my name is Prince Rodelin. I am a servant of this place." He continued and said, "Please forgive Lord Rondio for his rudeness. In his stead, he will guide him to his room, sir." Prince, the attentive host, led the gentleman on a tour of the room, ensuring he appreciated the room's exquisite qualities, from the tasteful decor to the breathtaking view outside. As they stepped inside, the man, a touch bewildered by the room's elegant and feminine ambience, hesitated for a moment before raising a thoughtful query. He asked Prince if there might be some confusion and whether this particular room had been designated for female guests. With a courteous smile, he inquired whether Prince was absolutely certain about accommodating him there. Prince, a gracious and hospitable host, responded to the man's expressed concern with a sincere and welcoming demeanor. He was well aware of the initial apprehensions that might have arisen, and he was quick to dispel any doubts with his reassuring words. Smiling warmly, Prince addressed the gentleman's worries, saying, "Oh, please don't worry, sir. These items you see are the remnants of my late sister's belongings, which we have carefully preserved as a heartfelt tribute to her cherished memory." His words were laced with a deep respect and reverence for his sister, emphasizing the sentimental value these belongings held for their family. Prince's thoughtful explanation not only put the guest at ease, but also provided a glimpse into the loving and respectful atmosphere that permeated their home. "You are most welcome to enjoy the comfort and charm of this room, regardless of its past association." His reassuring words eased the gentleman's reservations, allowing him to fully appreciate the room's unique history and ambience. Immediately she read it, she dropped the novel, which means she's going to die. Then she said to herself that the story can't be that cruel. She continued and said she will read it again and see if. Then she confirmed it was written as "My younger sister, Ayelet Rodelin, is dead." There was a sealed dungeon deep within Gillet Castle. The prince said that where his sister slipped and fell into it. That's how she, the servant, a stoic figure in the manor, reached the moment of emotional turmoil that halted his steps. Before him lay a collection of his late sister's cherished belongings, each item carrying memories and sentiments that he could never bear to stow away or part with. With a gentle touch, he placed his hand upon these precious relics. The worn edges of a beloved book, the delicate porcelain figurine she had treasured, and the faded photograph capturing a moment of happiness. All of these items held profound significance. They were more than mere possessions. They were remnants of a past that still lingered in his heart, a connection to the sister he had loved dearly. As he stood there, enveloped in the bittersweet nostalgia of the moment, he realized that these belongings were a bridge to the past, a way to keep his sister's memory alive. In that quiet, poignant moment, he found solace in the simple act of touching these tangible links to his sister, a testament to the enduring power of love and remembrance. It was a moment of deep emotional connection with her memory. In the midst of this somber reflection, Ayelet, determined and resolute, declared that she would not resign herself to mere passivity, waiting for an uncertain fate. Recognizing that the answers to her predicament might be concealed within the contents of the novel, she resolved to undertake an extraordinary mission. She decided that she would read every single letter, driven by an unyielding determination to survive and uncover the key to her salvation. Then Ayelet shut the book and said to herself that she read the whole thing again, but the ending still doesn't make sense. Ayelet's life is a tragedy and the protagonist suffers way too much. Then she decided to use a combat skill package she bought. She said to herself that she will choose her combat ability. She made up her mind after reading through the book again. Healers are rare in the universe. In the novel, the protagonist had a hard time because he couldn't find a decent healer. In that case, she said to herself that she wants to be a healer. Then Ayelet received a notification that she had chosen Soul of a Legendary Saint, acquiring skill based on chosen job, but she didn't meet requirement and was unable to acquire Divine Power. But for her to acquire it, she must complete the prerequisite quest. As she diligently went about her cleaning duties, Her keen eye couldn't help but notice the substantial accumulation of dust that had settled in every corner of the room. The sight of this neglected cleanliness tugged at her sense of order and cleanliness, compelling her to make a steadfast commitment to maintaining a spotless environment. After a few hours of industrious work, she decided to take a well-deserved break. As she rested, her gaze wandered aimlessly, finally settling upon an intriguing notice, which seemed to have materialized out of thin air. This notice outlined a quest that demanded unwavering dedication, the task of praying fervently for 1,000 consecutive mornings, during the sacred hours of 5 to 7 a.m., within the hallowed walls of places of worship, be it the towering cathedrals, the serene chapels, or the tranquil temples. Upon comprehending the magnitude of this spiritual undertaking, a sense of exhaustion washed over her. The realization struck like a tidal wave that this quest wasn't just a mere suggestion, but a formidable challenge that required her to rise each morning before the world awoke, to commune with her faith for 1,000 days straight. The weight of this commitment bore down on her, a profound mix of trepidation and determination filling her heart as she contemplated the arduous journey ahead. Afterwards, she sought solace in the chapel, her heart heavy with the burden of her quest. As she knelt in prayer, pouring her soul into each whispered plea, she received a sign. Post-prayer, her eyes were drawn to a message displaying her current progress, which stood at a modest 5%. A sense of affirmation welled up within her, and she whispered to herself that her efforts were indeed yielding results. In the sacred space of the chapel, she continued her conversation with the divine, questioning the purpose behind her presence there. She unburdened her heart, sharing the injustices her aunt and uncle had inflicted upon her and her family. While immersed in this dialogue with the Almighty, her progress bar steadily climbed, first to 60%, unbeknownst to her, and then further to a remarkable 90%, a testament to the potency of her communion with the divine. Then she continued and told God about how she feels the progress increased to 95%. Then she continued and told God that now that she's dead, her uncle's going to take her rent deposit and she is so angry that he will take something from her again. Then the progress hit 100% and began to beep. Once the morning prayer concluded, it seemed that everything Ayelet did revolved around benefiting her family. She couldn't help but wonder if her uncle had eagerly seized another opportunity for their gain. She had worked tirelessly, painstakingly saving up one small victory at a time to secure that cherished house. Ayelet found herself in the midst of an unusual and surreal situation. It seemed that the very forces that shaped the world were taking an interest in her, considering her for a transmigration into the universe of their creation. The notion that her fate might be guided by an entity of such immense power left her both awestruck and apprehensive. But the enigma deepened further. It was as if the universe had multiple architects, each with their own grand design. While the voice responsible for her potential transmigration was showing interest, another architect, known for crafting the towering edifices of suffering in narratives, seemed preoccupied with designing a new masterpiece, a towering structure set within the pages of an action-packed novel. This confluence of messages and potential destinies left Ayelet in a state of perplexity. Why was she being drawn into this intricate web of celestial architects and cosmic decisions? It was a question that weighed on her mind as she contemplated the significance of these messages and the extraordinary journey they seemed to herald. Then she noticed that the gods are responding. Then she said to herself, why would a god feel cautious around her? Through the notification she received, she said that she have started a religion for the voice that shapes the world in the continent of Sarentra. As the first follower of the voice that shapes the world, she gained love of the voice that shapes the world and favor of the voice that shapes the world, and both effects will apply after acquiring divine power. Ayelet knows something big is happening but didn't know the exact thing. Then she began to pray. Countess Sandra Gillette expressed her satisfaction with the potion she had received from the alchemist earlier that morning, noting its remarkable effectiveness. She had harbored doubts about the alchemist's skills, suspecting him to be lacking in expertise, especially given that the strengthening potions he had crafted for her son hadn't made a noticeable improvement in his swordsmanship. As she contemplated this newfound elixir's potency, a question gnawed at her thoughts. Why had the alchemist never offered such a remarkable concoction before? If he possessed the knowledge and skill to create a potion of such caliber, why had he withheld it until now? In the midst of her contemplation, Countess Gillette's daughter, Bianca Gillette, approached her. With a sweet smile and a tone filled with curiosity, she inquired, "Mother, would you like me to fetch you a hand mirror?" The unexpected question momentarily drew the Countess's attention away from her musings on the enigmatic alchemist, prompting her to consider her daughter's offer. Countess Sandra Gillette, deeply absorbed in thoughts about her appearance, had almost missed her own words as she conversed with her daughter. However, the moment was interrupted by the arrival of Miss Isla, bearing a delectable dessert. She joyfully announced that the dessert had been prepared by Mr. Rodeline's daughter, a feat that filled them with pride. Countess Gillette, intrigued by the promise of a delightful treat, took a moment to savor the dessert. With each bite, her taste buds danced in delight as she savored the exquisite flavors crafted by Mr. Rodeline's daughter. She couldn't help but compliment the chef on the delectable creation. As she savored the last bite, Countess Gillette turned her attention back to her daughter Bianca. Curiosity piqued, she inquired, "And where is Bianca, the talented daughter of the alchemist, now?" Ailette's journey into the garden resembled an elegant dance, a symphony of care and devotion to the verdant life she nurtured. Her fingers, weathered and wise from years of tending to these very plants, moved with a delicate touch. It was as though she were engaging in a silent conversation with nature itself. The tomatoes, hanging ripe and heavy, seemed to respond to her touch. Each one was selected with the utmost consideration, cradled gently in her palm. In these moments, as she admired the vibrant reds and deep greens, she found herself enveloped in a sense of wonder and gratitude for the bounty of the garden. This meticulous ritual wasn't just a display of her expertise. It was a testament to the profound connection she shared with the land and its offerings. The love she poured into every tomato mirrored the love she held for the garden's bounty as a whole, nurturing not just the plants but her own soul in the process. The irony of her labor in the afterlife bore down upon Ailette, a constant reminder that even in the realms beyond mortal existence, responsibilities persisted. As she gazed upon the fruits of her spectral toil, she couldn't help but reflect on the weight of her duties. Amidst the tranquil beauty of her harvest, an unexpected disruption tore through the serenity. A sudden, gut-wrenching sensation seized her as her hard-earned tomatoes were abruptly torn from her grasp by an imposing figure. The abruptness of that act sent shockwaves through her, a stark contrast to the tranquility she had been immersed in just moments before. The arrival of this stranger, marked by his audacious entitlement, shattered the peace of the garden. In a tone that bore the weight of his privilege, he confronted Ailette with a brash inquiry, "What are you staring at?" The audacity of the question only deepened the sense of injustice and intrusion that surged within her. The man's striking obsidian hair cascaded around his face, a stark contrast to the vibrant garden that surrounded them. It was a mane that framed features that bore the unmistakable mark of a life steeped in opulence. His attire, a symphony of rich fabrics and ornate details, bore witness to a life of privilege and luxury that had been his birthright. Every fold of his clothing seemed to whisper the story of his aristocratic lineage. As he stood before Ailette, there was an undeniable aura of entitlement that enveloped him, like an invisible cloak woven from generations of noble blood. His posture and demeanor were those of someone accustomed to having their every whim indulged. It was evident to all who gazed upon him that he was the cherished offspring of the Count, a position that had bestowed upon him not just wealth, but an expectation of deference and special treatment. In the garden's tranquil ambience, this striking contrast between the world of privilege he represented and the humble toil of Ailette created a palpable tension, a reminder of the stark divisions within society that transcended even the boundaries of life and death. Ailette found herself caught between her duty to the garden and the confrontation that had unexpectedly intruded upon her sanctuary. With a graceful approach, Ailette approached Lord Rombio, her demeanor polite and gentle, as she reminded him that the basket he held was her own. Yet, her words seemed to dissipate into the air, for Lord Rombio remained fixated on the tomatoes before him, his keen observations delving into their roundness and robust texture.